Hi, this is Willa Ball with Pedigree Real Estate. I am the principal broker and owner, as well as principal broker owner of Pedigree Properties of Northwest Arkansas. And every year I work to put together a year-end recap of the residential real estate market. No doubt about it, the 2023 market is going to be a bit different than 2022. So the goal for this review is to walk through some statistics that we saw in 2022, but also some trends and some insights heading into this year. So a few things to call out here. Sources for this material. I'm a member of the National Association of Realtors, also a member of the Multiple Listing Service, as well as I've recently attended a great 2022 recap from the Urban Land Institute of Northwest Arkansas. So lots of learnings from these resources that are kind of rolled up into this review. So we're going to jump right into it. One of the things that certainly in my professional opinion, but also as a buyer and a seller myself and an investor, there's no doubt in my mind all of the sentiments and what people are feeling about leaving the 2022, what would be considered one of the hottest markets, obviously coming out of 21. It was a very hot time for sellers. So it was a dominant sellers market. And coming into 2023, the feelings that buyers and sellers and investors are having, they're different. And so to call out, some of the things that are on my mind as an investor, but also my clients as well. And those of you who I know are considering selling, or those of you who must buy in this market, here are some of the things that I know are in your mind. One is just housing availability. Inventory is still low. It remains low coming into 2023. And we'll talk a little more about that in a minute. Lots of discussion around crash. This is a term I continue to hear tossed around month over month. Also, rising interest rates. Obviously, we have seen a rise over the last 6 months, but we've also seen some slowdown in that space. So that's actually good coming into the new year. Supply chain disruption. Where are we at on that? That has been a significant market challenge for us over the last 3 years. Labor shortages and employment, huge challenge. The value of a dollar. Are we going into a recession? How long will the recession last? Certainly some political divide is in the way of a lot of progress, and inflation, the things that are happening right now in order to get that under control. And then just global tension, right? Things that are happening not only nationally, but across the world. So these are what people are feeling. And I think the thing I would challenge everyone to continue to think about at this point is that we are all people, and human beings certainly do and will continue to take an emotional approach to their real estate decisions, as well as financial. I've told so many people at this point, it takes 28 days to form a habit. And what we've seen over the course of the last 2.5 years is in essence sellers, believing and understanding and still having hope in the fact that there is going to be a 2 to 3% interest rate return. That we've created a new normal in our minds, and the reality is it's not sustainable. So I think there's a lot of mindset shift that is going to have to be necessary also to continue to level out and bring the real estate market back to where it needs to be. So there's some emotion tied into that as well. All right, so we're going to talk about some national factors. Going right into this. Okay, so what trends have been happening over the course of the pandemic, which obviously is year 2020, 2021, and the majority of 2022. Online shopping was significant. These are the top three when you think about everything we're hearing from a national perspective. Online shopping is significant. That part of the consumers' buying habits changed significantly during that time, and it's not going to go back, right? So brick and mortar certainly opened back up and such, but people are used to now shopping in this way. That trend is one that continuing into 2023 is expected to stick. Business travel, although business travel has opened up, it leads into this third component here, which is working from home. So there has been so much technology added and capability added for working from wherever. Business travel is a component of that. It's just less necessary in a lot of markets, in a lot of industries. And so because virtual was introduced at such a strong pace and new technology is there, that is a trend that is definitely expected to continue over the course of 2023. So what's normalizing? Really, there are three things. Inflation, this is something that we're obviously trying to get under control. And so there are a lot of factors that are rolling into that. One of them is interest rates and managing interest rates. And so what we have seen over the course of Q4 in 2023 is some regulation there. And that has presented a real estate market challenge, which leads to the third here is returns. So sellers are not gaining as much home equity in Q4 as they did in Q1 of 2022. That is just a fact. And so it is something that when you think about that emotional piece, when you think about the sentiment of the market, a lot of sellers are factoring this into their decision of when do I sell. And so this is a big piece of things right now, and things that are still showing in all the research I've done that we're gonna hang on to these trends, and these are continuing the things that are going to be normalizing over the course of this year. Capital is something that 100% looks different now than it did over the course of the pandemic. So here's some interesting statistics. Development debt expected in 2023 is 49% compared to in 2022 at 19. Acquisition debt in 2023 expected to be at 36% versus 5% in 2022, and refinance debt 2023 at 33% versus 6% in 2022. So capital is going to be harder to come by, and that is also a factor that buyers and investors are certainly considering leading into this year. So 30-year mortgage rate from 1990. I thought this was an incredible slide. It really is February to February every year. Obviously, we're not to February 2023 yet, based on when I'm recording this information. But you can certainly see a fluctuation in rates from 1990, but it does give you some idea of where we've been fairly consistent. For example, we haven't seen double digits in interest rates since the 90s, which is nice. Will we see them again? That's a huge question mark that I think even the most professional HR individuals are scratching their heads over. There's a lot of noise. This is the thing that I am noticing in my business and in my community and in our market. Lots and lots of noise. And so one of our focuses for this year is to just educate. And I think this is one of those ways to do that, is presenting the information, presenting the facts, presenting the numbers and the statistics based on everything we know. And we haven't seen it. Will we see it? That's still unknown. But what I do know we've seen is a reduction several times over the last several weeks in interest rates. So more to come, obviously, on that. Next slide here. Combating the rate hikes. So cash is king. If you haven't heard it, I've heard it 100 times over the course of the last 2.5 years. As a seller, as a buyer, cash is king, and that's just the truth. If you're a cash buyer, you're in a better position to buy in this particular market. Sellers, if you are selling, it is very important to price your home well. Pricing it well certainly leads to a better opportunity to gain cash buyers. The adjustable rate mortgage, which is known as the ARM loan, this is something that several large banks, smaller banks, community banks, they're offering. And so if you are a buyer and considering to buy in this market, in any market, in this time of fluctuation and a little bit of uncertainty, this is ways that lenders are offering to continue to allow those buyers who have to buy to allow them to buy. The other is refinancing. Obviously, refinancing is most generally always an option, But and obviously not everybody wants to pull that trigger too soon in the process. But refinancing is certainly something that can be done later once we see some or less fluctuation in interest rates. Home price appreciation continues to moderate. This is a great slide that actually indicates percentage of change year over year. And so this only went up to October of 2022 last year, but there's definitely some noticeable changes in appreciation, and it just continues to moderate. And I think it will continue to moderate into 2023. This all goes back to the equity slide as well, is how much appreciation, how much do you gain year over year in your property? That's going to change. You are not going to gain as much as you did during the unprecedented rates during the pandemic timeframe. One of the things to go back to this that I want to call out is nationally, we are definitely, getting back to 0 to 10% moderation. You've seen that from November 2012 to 19. We definitely had this crazy spike, but when you look at 2022 for October, it is back to that mid 0 to 10% range. So I think that's important to call out. When we start using the term leveling and normalizing, clearly from 2012 to up to 2020, we were remaining within that 0 to 10% range on home price appreciation. So I think I use the term leveling and normalizing a lot with my clients, because that is what we're seeing. I know you're hearing a lot of noise. I know there's a lot of feelings and emotions around what's going on, but the data would suggest that we are getting back to what would be considered normal in many markets. Inventory is low. We talked about that a minute ago. No doubt about it. Nationally and in the Northwest Arkansas market, it's low. We're going to talk a little bit further about specifically the inventory in Northwest Arkansas in a minute, but this is really a national graph that shows the course of inventory. So when you're looking at getting up into these particular higher ranges of price points, there isn't enough inventory. And so where you see right now, lowest of the low on the far right of the screen for January 2022, we just didn't have it. So inventory continues to be an issue. In my opinion, factors certainly driving inventory issues are back to how sellers and buyers are feeling right now about what's going on and the unknowns and the uncertainties. Owners who bought financed homes in 2008, they were able to buy under 6%. Many of these owners are ready to retire now. They're downsizing. They're upsizing. Maybe they were new home buyers at the point, and now they're building a family. Many may have refinanced since their original purchase. I think a lot of the place that sellers are in right now, they're just unwilling to trade the low interest rates that they would have gotten when they purchased their home for the high interest rates that are now. And that's what a huge reason why sellers are not selling, is that they don't want to trade for the interest increase. One of the things I think about too is just waiting on a greater return. This is the thing I have fear for sellers. So if you are a seller or thinking about selling, if you are waiting for pandemic level interest rate prices to return, you will wait likely forever. I don't have anything that I can tell you right now that I can put my thumb on that would guarantee that for you. But based on history, it would suggest we will not see it again, possibly in our lifetime. Maybe our kids, maybe our grandkids, but we won't see it again. And so until sellers begin to change their mindset on the grief of losing the equity, they're grieving over it. I have clients right now who are just beside themselves because in kind of kicking themselves for the fact that they didn't list in the spring whenever we discussed listing in the spring. Then it became fall of 2022, and it was frankly too late for them to gain what they wanted to gain. And so it again, going back to the mind shift change, it's going to take a mind shift change. It's going to take continued normalization. It's going to take more transparency with the uncertainties that are happening more nationally. It's going to take that to make a shift in where we're at right now. So rent growth, so much of what I just described, probably all of it, is what is driving rent rates through the roof. So as I said, opening this session, I own and operate Pedigree Real Estate and Pedigree Properties. Pedigree Properties is a property management company here in Northwest Arkansas. It is insanely different what you will see now on rent rates versus what we saw 2 or 3 years ago. The challenge is the interest rates are 100% driving rent rates up. The other thing driving is low inventory, especially low inventory in that first-time home buyer price point. And so what is fascinating to me, in a math that I'm trying to get my head around, is when you think about an average rent rate, and the average rent rate in Northwest Arkansas is somewhere between 1,600 and 1,800 for your basic 3-bedroom, 2-bath, single-family residence. And multifamily at this point is upwards of, $1,100 for a 1-bedroom apartment. So whether it's single-family rental, multifamily rental, the rates are really, really high. This is happening. This is a national chart. So it's happening everywhere, but in the Northwest Arkansas market, it is 100% happening. It's interesting to me that when you think about the rate increase from what maybe would have normalized if you would have bought during the pandemic at 2.5 to 3%, and now it's about 6.2 to 7%, there's a difference of about 4% in that number. And so when you take that 4% interest and you do the math on what you're paying out 2 years in interest towards a home that is driving equity for you. There is a return on that versus paying rent for 2 years at a substantially higher rent rate than you would have if you would have bought. That number, I would challenge each of you to consider that math. If you're a buyer and you can buy and you qualify to buy and you're just holding on rates to come down, and in the meantime, you're throwing your money at a rental property in increased rent rate time, reconsider. Definitely reconsider. Call me. I will walk you through the math. It's substantial, and in my opinion, if I were a buyer, I'd rather be pouring that money into something that is an investment for me long term than losing it to someone else. And I'm saying that to you, and I actually own a property management company, but I still can do math. And so that I would encourage you to give me a call and let's talk through that math, because I think a lot of people are missing that. So let's talk specifically about Benton and Washington County in Northwest Arkansas. I am licensed to practice real estate in the state of Arkansas. Primarily, Pedigree Real Estate does function in the northwest Arkansas corner, which is typically mostly Benton and Washington County. So this is where I have most of my knowledge and my experience. So number of homes sold. You can see here that, and this was 2022, you can see here the difference. Lots and lots of drop after in certain quantities here. 1,500, we were at 1,500 in September. We were above 1,500 per month of homes sold in Northwest Arkansas. And then you hit September and it just goes away. It just goes away. Now, what you do see is a little bit of a turn from November to December. I would tell you in January of 2023, we have seen an uptick in this as well. So hopefully we're coming back from what I consider September and October to November being fear. A lot of fear was driving real estate decisions during that time. So hopefully we're moving out of the fear stage and into the education stage and transparency stage is kind of my goal, continuing from here. All right, so we're going to talk about average days on market. This has definitely seen a change. Again, September, October, November, lots of challenges with, do I sell, do I buy, what the heck am I supposed to do, or should I do during this time? So December continued days on market increase. This is absolutely what I'm seeing for my listings and my clients right now is somewhere between 58 and 62 average days on market. I think we're going to continue to see that again during kind of this normalizing and leveling out phase, but also inventory is still low here. And so it leans into a seller's market for sure. Not as much as it did before in early 2022 and during the pandemic, but inventory is low and less buyers are buying. So I do foresee a continued extended, what we would consider this to be an extended days on market compared to obviously what you see on this chart. So that's something for sellers. If you are selling in this market, be prepared for this. It also really, really matters where you price your home. If you are not using a realtor to help you make that decision based on statistics, please do. Whether it's me, whether it's someone else, you need professional information to make sure that you're not sitting on a home so long that it becomes completely stale to the market. That's what you want to avoid. But just know that if you list a home in Northwest Arkansas right now, this is your average days on market. Again, somewhere between 52 and 68 days. But price it well, and that's going to make all the difference in your experience. So median sell price, gosh, we've seen this is stayed fairly average, as you can see from here. In Northwest Arkansas, the median sell price is right now in December over 300,000. It's a great number. It's a great number for sellers. What it's challenging are first-time home buyers. And so first-time home buyers continue to have a tough time getting into this market. There are ways to do it. There are programs to do it. Again, love to talk to you if you're a first-time home buyer about how to beat these numbers. And so this is a very interesting slide because even in some of the most difficult months of September, October, November, this is where we saw the median sell price hang on. List price versus sale price. So definitely want to talk about this. I have been tracking since September the number of active listings in Northwest Arkansas in our Big Five. So when I think about Big Five here, it's Fayetteville, Springdale, Bentonville, Rogers, and Bella Vista. Those are the cities that I am tracking very strongly within my business. And so on average, all five of those cities combined are seeing a 30% reduction, or 30% of active listings in those Big Five have seen at least one price reduction since they originally hit the market. So that's a huge number. That number has not been that large in years. So the point I want to make about that math, again, I'm going to say the math again. In the Big Five cities in Northwest Arkansas, Springdale, Fayetteville, Bentonville, Rogers, Bella Vista, of the active listings since September, of the active listings that are listed, at least 30% of all those active listings has seen one price reduction on the MLS. Okay. One, anytime you see a price reduction, it can tend to be negative. It's not as negative as it was during the hottest time in our market through the pandemic, but you never want to see it. So that's one thing I'll say about that. But to see that many sellers coming off of their original price only says a few things. It says either you didn't have a realtor that gave you the advice you needed to price it well to compete within your market, or it says maybe you didn't take the advice of that realtor to price it well to compete in your market. or you're still hanging on, in essence, to what would have been a hotter market. We are not in a hot market anymore. So when it comes to listing your home for sale, you already know it's going to sit on the market for 52 to 68 days, most generally. If you already know that's the math, price it well to pull that number down. If you, a lot of my clients have taken the approach of, I want to list it on the higher side because I'm not in a hurry to sell. I'm just challenging you that ends up presenting, anytime you go over the average days on market, it presents a stale feeling to the market. So buyers will start questioning, okay, why has this been on the market 110 days when the average days on market is 60? So those are things buyers and buyer agents think about whenever they're bringing you offers. So price it well. That's my biggest point of advice on this particular slide, because clearly January 2023, that stat's already on here. We are not doing well here. Seeing too many price drops, and that's even significant from September, October, November, which is here, which was when I call the biggest fear we had in our market. Months of inventory. So this would indicate that we've certainly seen an improvement in Northwest Arkansas homes for sale and inventory, which is great. This indicates we have about 5.5 to 5.75 months worth of inventory. But I want to give you some math. A recent report, what we refer to in this market as a Skyline report. It's a credible resource that we use. On average, 30 people a day relocate to Northwest Arkansas. 30 people a day. If you think about that, that is thousands of people a year. Thousands. Last time I checked the MLS, we barely had over 1,000 listings active in the MLS. In Benton and Washington County. Keep in mind, this is Benton and Washington County. It's not enough. It's not enough. That's my huge message here. Sellers aren't selling. Buyers aren't buying. So we have no inventory, which is leading to rent rates going through the roof. And people who want to buy or need to buy and can or can't buy, thinking that renting is the way to go, when in all actuality, the loss there is significant. It's just loss. That's the best way you can describe it. So this is the thing I wanted to call out here is this growth at 30 people per day is expected to happen for several years to come. And so sellers, really be thinking about what are the opportunities for you to gain as much equity as possible in this market. There is still equity to be had. There is 100% still equity to be had. So again, call me if you're trying to figure out how do you do that. So let's talk about 2023's outlook. Several bits of information the National Association of Realtors has shared is a crash coming? This is part of the sentiment challenge and how people are feeling. Is it coming? Is it looming? What's happening? I think for me, seeing some of the interest rates come down, or the interest rate come down bit by bit over the course of the last few weeks has been great, kind of a sight for sore eyes, but given some confidence to this might be okay. But some really good stats here. I'm not going to go through each of them, but keep this slide on here for a minute so you can kind of take this all in. But there are some comparisons here, right? Job cuts, clearly different in the last housing cycle than in this cycle. This one I thought was pretty incredible because it does speak to how low inventory is right now, is the inventory on market. We just don't have very much inventory. mortgage delinquency. Look at this. So people are paying their mortgages. We are, a lot of people are wanting to compare what's happening right now to 2008. There is not a comparison. Um, if you would want more statistics about that and more information about it, please call me. And I think this slide helps to show that there are some significant differentiating factors between the last housing cycle and this one, and a lot of those are positive. So homes in foreclosure, 4.6% last housing cycle, and this one less than 1. So big deal. I think this is a great slide to actually try to break through a lot of the noise that we're hearing about a crash this and a crash that. I'm not sure crash has ever been the right word, but certainly there are some positive factors that are displayed here that hopefully give you some confidence that things are going to work out. And so how do I feel feelings might change in 2023? The things in yellow here are different from where the sentiment was in 2022. I definitely think sellers and buyers, investors, we are in what I would consider an emotional decision-making mode. Buying and selling right now has become more emotional than it has ever been before. Fear, uncertainty are driving a lot of decisions. So when I go back to mindset, we talk about inflation, we talk about recession, we're talking about real estate market crashing and all those terms when and you can't discount those. We cannot discount those things, but I'm putting a significant amount of weight on the fact that once as human beings, we can shift our mindset and get our emotions in check about what has essentially happened to us. If you're a seller, you're offended that I'm not getting as much equity as I would have gotten out of my house. You're kicking yourself for it. You may be kicking your realtor for it. But at the end of the day, emotions aside, it is what it is. And so if you want to sell, if you need to sell, you have to be able to shift your mindset and move the emotional piece of this aside, because if you are holding out and waiting for 2% and 3% interest rates, you may wait forever. So that's a challenge that I'm giving all of you today. Also, market crash. I definitely think we as buyers, sellers, investors, we're going to start connecting more to normalization and leveling out than we are crashing. And that's my goal this year, again, is to just continue to educate as much as possible with as much transparency as I can find. The other is fluctuating interest rates. So rising interest rates was kind of the sentiment coming out of 2022 because they were rising and we had seen rising for months over months. But I think fluctuating is a term I'm going to change here for 2023. I definitely think we're going to continue to see that. And so again, hopefully that gives us a little more confidence that every 4 weeks or so, we're not continuing to see large increases in interest rates. So the last slide here, this is a lot, so I'm going to leave this on the screen. I'm going to go through each one of these. It's kind of an end to the 2023 outlook as I see it for the Northwest Arkansas market. And this is specific, again, to Northwest Arkansas and to Benton and Washington County. This is based on research I've done, articles that I feel like are very credible, so I've sourced some of those on here. But migration to Northwest Arkansas has accelerated during the pandemic. There is no doubt about it. A lot of regional markets have seen acceleration from larger states like California, Texas, New York, Florida. A lot of those folks have began to migrate. And a lot of the reason was because this whole virtual work from home, wherever you want, became a possibility, and the capabilities were there. And so it drove different decisions for different families and where they wanted to be. Northwest Arkansas is the nation's 5th fastest growing city. Arkansas Inc. 2020, 2022, 2023, that has not changed. Definitely one of the fastest growing cities and regional areas in the country right now. Northwest Arkansas ranks 8th in projected home price increases in 2023. The reality is, and I'll go back and reflect back to that slide that showed the median average home price is over $300,000. Again, things that Northwest Arkansas, hopefully, leaders of this area, investors, developers of this area, are putting a lot of thought right now into how to not slow the pace necessarily, but to provide a more inclusive approach for everyone and anyone to find Northwest Arkansas as their home. So I think that's something that over the course of this year and in the coming years we're going to continue to see, is how do we make this a destination home for everyone. Northwest Arkansas home price is expected to increase 3.7% by 2023. I fully expect at the end of 2023, when I do this recap again, I fully expect the median home sale price point to continue to increase. So other things are going to have to be put in place to kind of mitigate some of some of the growth. This amount, certainly just another note here, the amount's outpacing a lot of other regional markets. On average, again, 30 people move here. Every day, Northwest Arkansas has experienced historic sales in the last 3 years. Again, I think the recap for 2023, that's a factor that is not going to change. Home price increases create disadvantage for low to middle wage workers to buy. Again, something that hopefully leaders and developers of this region are focused on. We talked about this a bunch, and this talks about it again. Multifamily rent rates, record highs. That will not change until, from a Northwest Arkansas market perspective, we can start identifying ways for buyers who need to buy or want to buy, and for sellers to provide the inventory. That's a big challenge. On average, 25 to 28% of active listings have seen a price decrease in top selling cities of Northwest Arkansas. So that's just reiterating my point earlier. Price it right. If you don't, and you're somewhere over 52 to 68 days on market, you will face your home becoming stale. And in this market, that is definitely not something that you want to do. So partner with the right professional to price it well and move it as quickly as possible. Infrastructure is no longer just about roads and bridges. I think in Northwest Arkansas, one of the articles I've read recently talks about even, municipal services are struggling to keep up with the growth. And so this is a factor that I know is being addressed and will continue to be addressed in our market. Climate risk will require a proactive approach. This is the part where I feel like we have a lack right now. There's a lot of noise out there, but not a lot of facts, in my opinion. And so until we can get more transparent about what is going on nationally, I think this is going to continue to be a challenge. But people in markets that are more proactive in their approach, which I do think Northwest Arkansas falls in this category, I think we are already thinking about the challenges that the real estate market will have here, but 5 to 10 to 15 years from now. We are already thinking about those things. We are already proactively putting programs and such in place that will help eliminate some of that risk. The sentiments, we talked about it. 2022 continued to be impactful in 2023. But I've just kind of covered with you some of the things that I think are changing with how people are feeling about the real estate market in general, but specifically to Northwest Arkansas. Regulations can bring clarity, but also unintended consequences, and I think we've all can attest that that is a thing that is happening right now. And, one thing I read is that 2023 to 2025 will be challenging. The best operators will differentiate themselves. And so I fundamentally believe that. I believe that for market positions, I believe that for business positions, whether they be corporate, whether they be small business like myself, it will be how we face the challenges coming out of the hottest market we have seen in record-breaking period of time to a cooling market. I would not consider the Northwest Arkansas market cold. I wouldn't. I would consider it cooling down from where we have been. Um, and I think that's okay. I think there's some regret mixed in there. I think there's some excitement mixed in there. But those who are doing this well, those who are being proactive, and facing forward, to the future, I think those are the individuals and the companies and the operators and the businesses that will differentiate themselves going forward. So I just kind of to in this for us today. Just again, my name is Willa Ball, owner and principal broker of Pedigree Real Estate. We are so excited to be operating in the Northwest Arkansas market. Our office is less than a mile from the new Walmart home office campus on Highway 102. Here's some contact information for you to reach us. Again, hopefully this information reaches individuals who are interested in considering a new life in Northwest Arkansas, or those of you who are here in Northwest Arkansas learning a little bit about what the real estate market could mean for you if you're considering buying, selling, or investing here. So please give us a call if you have any questions. Definitely like and subscribe to our page for more education this year. Again, this is going to be a promise I'm giving to you as our YouTube audience is education, education, education is our goal for the year. So thank you so much. I appreciate everything. Give us a call if you have any questions.